Hello beautiful people, today we're going to talk about how much of a raise you should get each year. By the end of this video I want you to be able to understand what a raise really reflects when it comes to you, your opportunities and your performance. I want you to understand how to be able to use offers to justify bigger jumps, and I want you to shift your mindset from a standard percentage to value-based compensation. And I also want you to remove the word should from your vocabulary. I've never found it very useful. So what sort of raise should you get? Well, all that's going to do is make you disappointed and angry and upset if you don't get what you think you should get. I think you get what you earn. I think you get compensation for the value that you bring. So I'd much rather you ask yourself the question, how much of a raise can I get based on the value that I'm bringing? So when we think about raises, think about it this way. If you're aiming for the standard 3%, you're probably leaving money on the table because that's just a cost of living inflation value increase. And raises don't really reflect time. They don't always reflect time. In some companies they do. And if you're ambitious, that might not be the right company for you. But they don't necessarily reflect time. They reflect value and they reflect ability to be able to work effectively with others. And if you want to get a bigger raise, I want to show you how to not work harder necessarily, but to be able to deliver differently. Now, in this particular case, the hard work might actually become internally in terms of the stories you're telling yourself, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And the other thing is, from my perspective, there's no standard raise when you're not making standard offers. So let's talk about what non-standard offers might look like for you. So in my book, The Innovation Mindset, which is linked down below in the comments, and I think you'll find it useful for some of this thinking, and this is where a lot of this content is coming from, and it's a best-selling, it was Amazon #1 bestseller in management and leadership in a couple of different categories. But what I'd love you to start thinking about in here is that the old common sense, and I talk about common sense in the book quite a bit, but the old common sense says that 3% is the standard raise and that's just the way life works. So if you're going to be looking at a 3% increase every 3 to 5 years for the rest of your career, you should be pretty miserable because it's going to be hard to actually be able to be successful and do nice things like, you know, buy an apartment or buy a house or buy a car or send your kids to school or to extracurricular activities if that's all that you're doing. So we need to find a way to get you out of that mindset. The new common sense, which I'm bringing to this work, says raises are reflections of the value that you bring and the offers that you fulfill. Your practice, as you shift from the old common sense of saying 3% is what I get and that's what's on offer, to I actually have a lot more control over it in terms of the value I bring and the offers that I make, is you're moving away from what is a typical raise and asking what is a standard raise you should get versus what is the offer that I can make, what is the value that I can bring to my company, and how does that value align with what I want to do and what brings me joy and what I can develop myself further and further over a long period of time in. Your raise isn't a natural progression because you've hung around for a long time. Your raise is actually recognition of the value that you're able to create for your company, for your team, for your department, for your company. So ask yourself a couple of questions. What value am I helping create inside my organization today? And you've had a couple of successes under your belt by now. Identify what area those successes were in. Were they in strategy? Were they in technology? Were they in customer service? Were they in people development? Were they in people engagement? Were they in decision making? What are the areas that you've developed, that you've had some past successes in, and were those ones that floated your boat, brought you joy, made you feel useful, valuable, worthwhile? And as you start thinking, are your work worthwhile? You're always worthwhile. But as you start thinking about where you want to continue to add value, or continue, as I refer to it, to develop mastery in a particular area, let's identify what those areas are first and see how it is that you're going to make offers in those areas on an ongoing basis and make bigger and bigger and more powerful and more valuable offers as your career progresses. The value you can bring can be around financial value. It can be around eliminating pain for people in the organization or for customers. It can be for speeding things up or slowing things down. It can be for making better decisions. So pick an area that resonates with you, that you understand some of the metrics around, and let's see if that isn't an area that you can continue to grow and build mastery in. There are 3 key drivers behind pretty much all major promotions. One is increased scope. You're taking responsibility for broader, bigger projects, for more people. You have more authority, you have more autonomy. The other one is increased visibility. You might be on the front lines with customers. Is that a direction that you want to go on? You might be talking to the press, you might be talking to shareholders, you might be working with the board, which I have done. So over time, the visibility of what it is that you do, and therefore the necessary transparency, increases. Decide if that's an area that you want to move in. And then the other most important thing, I think, is increased trust. If you don't have the trust of your peers, and you don't have the trust of your team, and you don't have the trust of the C-level executives or the VPs above you, you are going to struggle to add value no matter what you do. Trust is one of the most important assets that you can build over your career. And one of the ways to do that is to manage your commitments, to make offers and deliver on them as you say you will. The other thing, as you're looking to determine the size of the raise that you would like to get, not that you should get, but that you would like to get, that you're working towards, is to be the person making the offer. So I've talked about offers in other videos, and I strongly recommend that you look at those. And I also talk about them in my book, The Innovation Mindset. That's worth looking at too. But what I encourage you to do in here is to look at what are the kinds of offers, what are the size of offers, what's the impact I can have with those offers, and in what area do I want to make offers, and where can I make offers that have strong metrics associated with them. 5 quick steps for you to go through as you start thinking about a raise, the size of raise you want, and the impact that your value and your work is going to have on how big a raise you can get. First one is track your offers. Make sure that you understand who you're offering what to and when it's supposed to be delivered on, and the impact it's going to make in terms of metrics and results. The second one is quantify the outcomes. I talk about metrics a lot, but metrics are what allows us to be able to run businesses effectively. If you're not contributing to metrics in some way, in some place, then you're not going to get noticed. You're not going to be appreciated as much as you could be if you understood what those metrics that you're impacting are and you were able to talk about them. The other thing to do is to make the work that you're doing visible. And again, I don't mean blowing your horn and bragging, and I don't mean just talking about it on one-on-ones. I mean being able to talk about the projects that you're doing in a way that you understand the impact that they're having in other departments, cross-functionally and across the organization. And then make sure that you also frame whatever raise or whatever promotion you get as a shared win. Take time to acknowledge the people that are supporting you through the process, that are your colleagues and allies and who are helping you get the work done and be successful. And this allows you to be able to become more discerning over time, which is incredibly valuable. So move away from the idea that should and that you should get things just because you're there, and move towards how do I engage in conversations that allow me to add more value, and as a result of that my work will be appreciated and I will be in a position for a raise and or a promotion. If you're thinking in these terms, go down to the comments below, go down to the link below, look at the getpromotedAssessment.com and do the promotion readiness assessment. Let me know what you think of it. Let the rest of us know how you are doing in terms of your ability to be able to get promoted or your plans to get promoted. And I wish you the very best of luck with it.